What's up, FUNL family? Derrick Broze here with the Conscious Resistance Network, and I just want to say thanks to everybody who's involved with FUNL 5, Chris and Will and everybody else. Thanks for all the work you're doing to spread natural law and true liberty, and thank you for sharing my music. I just have a couple things I want to share with you guys out there, and I hope you're enjoying everything you've heard so far. First of all, if you're interested in my thoughts on natural law and how I think it intersects with what I call exit and build and voluntarism and building parallel systems, you can check out a presentation I did last year as part of the SoundPath event. And you can go to theconsciousresistance.com, which is my main website, theconsciousresistance.com. And you can either scroll down to the presentations tab. We have the whole website broken down by category, or you can just search natural law and you'll see the talk pop up, just in case you're curious on my thoughts. The other thing I wanted to take a moment to do is just to share about some of my latest projects I have going on that you may find interesting. One of those is the Pyramid of Power documentary series and book. This is a 17-part documentary series that I started back in 2020, and it's finally coming to an end after 5 years. You can find the entire series at thepyramidofpower.net. And I'll say this, that it's not intended for, I know that the FUNL audience, many of you are deep researchers and very informed about the state of the world and how power works and who's behind things. So this is not necessarily intended for you, although I think you would still find a lot of value to it. It's really made for your so-called normie friends, for lack of a better term, your family and friends who aren't the kind of people who are going to watch a 4-hour podcast or, necessarily even read a book per se, but they will watch a 25 to 30 minute presentation, which is what each episode of the Pyramid of Power focuses on, 25 to 30 minute clips. And they will hopefully, from that, they'll see that this documentary is not a conspiracy documentary. It's not fear porn. It's all heavily documented. I consider it to be a true crime documentary. And if they watch this, if you can get them to sit down for 25 to 30 minutes and learn about big education or the establishment media or big wireless, the banking system, all these different pieces of the puzzle, then from the beginning of the series to the end, their whole mind might be blown, their whole life might be shifted, and hopefully they'll join us in the fight to spread real, true liberty and natural law. So I invite you guys to watch it. I will tell you that Mark Passio, he's featured in chapter 16 on religion and secret societies, and then the very, very final conclusion, chapter 17, we broke it into 2 parts, so volume 1 is available already. Volume 2 will be available publicly on March 6th. Mark is heavily featured in that final conclusion of the entire series as well. And so again, that's at thepyramidofpower.net. And if you prefer to read it, you want the book version, at the Pyramid of Power website, you will see a banner at the top that'll take you to the place where you can find all the different links for buying the book in the US and internationally. And in the book, I will say the book version has a little bit more material, probably about at least an hour's worth of material that I had to leave out of the documentary series because it was just so much. And so I decided to include it in the book. So that's the Pyramid of Power, thepyramidofpower.net. And the final thing I'd like to share with you guys is I recently released my story, my memoir of my battle, my dealing with drug addiction, overcoming mental health issues, self-harm, drug and alcohol abuse, suicidal attempts, and eventually going to prison at 21 years old, and how I started to, do the deep, real shadow work, and I started to meditate, and I started to pray, and I started to journal, and to get to the roots of my trauma. And this book is not about how I became an activist or, my investigative journalism or documentaries or anything. In some ways, it's kind of a prequel to all the stuff that you guys know me for and all the stuff I'm doing today. It's really about my young childhood and all that trauma I went through, and how that trauma and sadness and depression turned into anger as a teenager, and then eventually right after high school going into college, that turned into drinking and doing a whole bunch of drugs for a couple of years and getting pulled into this underworld of criminal activity, and then eventually finding myself locked up. And when I got locked up, that's when I really started to do the trauma healing and looking back on my own relationship with my father and how he'd been in prison my entire life for his drug addiction and so on and so forth. And so the book is the beginning of my effort to try to talk more about addiction, because I think addiction is even prevalent not only around the world, everywhere in humanity, but even within our so-called truth, freedom, consciousness, awake, whatever you want to say, communities. I think it's a lot more of an issue, and sometimes we don't talk about it. So if you're curious about my own history, or you just want to read a book that is about overcoming adversity and triumphing and all of my dark, deep, fucked up stories, You can find that book at amanofmyword.com, amanofmyword.com. The full title of the book is A Man of My Word, How I Overcame Addiction, Depression, and Mental and Physical Prisons. And I hope you guys will check it out. So thanks again for letting me share my message, Will and Chris. Thank you guys for all you're doing. I hope to see you guys soon out there in the internet or in the real world. I'll be doing a US tour coming in May and June, so stay tuned for that. Follow me at theconsciousresistance.com. And until next time, remember, you are powerful, you are beautiful, and you are free. Peace, my friends.